Welcome to the Midweek Tease with me, Odunoluwa Longe, where I share some random and not too random thoughts on things. And in this episode, let's talk about your purpose. So let's say tomorrow your job disappeared. You know, you woke up and you didn't have to clock in, you didn't have an HR to keep you on your toes, you didn't have a pre-assigned list of things that you have to do and share with your manager. There was no job. It disappeared tomorrow. If that happened, who would you be? Not what would you do, who would you be? And the reason this has been sparked in my mind for the last week is based off a recent conversation I had on our new show, Difference She Makes. I sat down with Odun for the last 12 years has been running her own law firm with her co-founder. They're in the States, in London, in Nigeria, in Dubai. Like, they've really grown. And before that, her and her co-founder were working at a law firm. They didn't really like it there. And so they left to start their own firm. And they intentionally were like, we're going to do things differently. And when Odun and I were having a conversation, we were talking about how they intentionally change how they approach recruitment. And even in interviews, they don't only focus on like, what skill set do you have? They're like, what type of person are you? And then she said something so interesting, which is so different from all the toxic bosses I've had in my career. She said, she doesn't want your job to be your everything. And she's like, honestly, your job, even as I'm employing you, is not your purpose. And then she said, your purpose should be your life. And when I heard that, I paused because it's something I truly believe in, right? And it goes against how we're socialized. We're raised to believe our worth is tied to how well we perform, all right? So we need to be impressive, be reliable, be indispensable, be exceptional. But somewhere along the way, what do you do becomes the question people ask you, almost to make it seem like what you do is more important than who you are. When I was preparing to leave my very glamorous radio presenter job, I had to do the work of separating who I was from what I do and be comfortable with knowing that some spaces may look at me as not being as glamorous anymore. When you're a radio presenter and you're hanging out with celebrities and you're on this huge platform and you have this job that everybody thinks is the best job ever, people assume what you do is who you are. Right? And so I really had to do a lot of identity work and understand like a job is a role, but a purpose is an orientation. A job is something you do. A purpose is who you are becoming. And I think when we confuse the two, we then are building a very fragile identity that could disappear overnight and leave us in a mess in case you are retrenched, in case your company goes belly up. You know what I mean? But if you build an identity of like, this is who I am, which is different from what I do. If what you do changes, it doesn't destabilize who you are. Now, psychologists have this thing they call the contingent self-worth, and it's when your value feels secure only when you're achieving. Hey, many of us are in this box, right? So like when we're not getting our promotion, when business slows down, when burnout hits, when you need to rest. Have you ever experienced that? Like when you're taking things easy and you're resting, you feel like your value has decreased because there's no movement. You're not doing things. You're not celebrating this big win. And that is because your value only feels secure when you are achieving. And that's not healthy, first and foremost. I think it's almost over-identification with our careers. So we've, again, conflated what we do with who we are. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying fuck that job. Fuck my business. No, work matters, building matters, creating matters, impact matters, right? But alignment is also very important. I came across a theory called the self-determination theory. It says when we thrive, which we all want to be, we don't want to be surviving, we want to thrive. 3 things are present when we thrive: autonomy, competence, and connection. Those 3 things. So if I'm to translate the three things into sentences, everyday language: autonomy, you chose this; competence, you're good at this; connection, you feel connected to this. When these three things are there, we feel aligned. And they're very different from making your job your entire personality. You can love your work deeply, very deeply, without collapsing your entire identity into it, right? So you need to start asking yourself, who are you outside of work? Who are you when you're not performing? Who are you when you're not leading a team? Who are you when you're not producing? Who are you? Are you curious? Are you creative? Are you restless? Are you spiritual? Are you funny? Are you soft? Are you analytical? Are you grounded? Do you know who you are, not what you do? And there's another concept I came across called identity foreclosure. It's when we commit to a professional identity early without getting to know the other parts of ourselves. It's something I also faced because I started working when I was 16. And then I got into, entertainment in terms of running my own poetry platform when I was 17, 18. And then I got my first radio job when I had just turned 20. So for a while, my entire identity became my professional identity. But you've got to remember that purpose is bigger than your profession, right? It shows up in how you love, which has nothing to do with you clocking in, how you mentor, how you build community, how you ask questions, how you raise children for those who have those, how you care for your body, how you speak truth. And so, yes, your job can be an expression of your purpose, but it can't contain your entire purpose. Your purpose is not your job. It's bigger than that, right? So how do you now start to untangle this? I think you start small. I think you start off by noticing what gives you energy and not applause. Notice the conversations that light you up. For me, that's how I knew my purpose is working with African women. Because when we're talking about African women, the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, I am switched on, and I'm that's my purpose there. Notice what you read for pleasure, because it seems there's a genuine connection there. Notice the thing that you do that makes time disappear. When you're doing it, 3 hours can fly by and you don't even notice it. That's me and listening to people's stories. That's me and drumming. That's me and gardening. I'll be like, how is it 5 p.m.? It was just 1 p.m. I'm behind on my deadlines. I think that purpose hides in energy. And so maybe another thing you can do is write 2 lists. You can write a list of what you do to earn money. And then the other list can be what makes you feel alive. If they overlap, that's beautiful. If they don't, that's not failure. Okay? Sometimes your job can fund your purpose, and that's still a powerful life. So yeah, you're allowed to be ambitious. You're allowed to, want legacy and success, to build and to scale. All of those LinkedIn terms there, but you are not allowed to reduce yourself to your LinkedIn bio. Your purpose should be your life, and your life is bigger than your title. So I'm going to end this where I started it. If everything you produce, if the job you go to disappeared, what would still remain true about you? Who would you be? Thanks for listening to the Midweek Tease, a Legally Clueless Africa production. Episodes go out every Wednesday, and you can learn more about us by going to legallycluelessafrica.com.